Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Holistic Pharmacy Podcast. I have with me today Dr. Phyllis Kamau, and she is a pharmacist and a diabetes educator. So welcome to the show, Phyllis.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marina. It's great to be here.
Yes, it's my pleasure. So why don't we start by introducing yourself and telling us how and where you grew up and how you came to be a pharmacist?
Okay, sure. So my name is Dr. Phyllis Kamau, as it's already been mentioned, and I grew up, born and raised in Kenya. So that's where I did my schooling from kindergarten all the way to high school. And then I moved to the United States after high school to pursue my education. Now, when I was moving to the US, at the time, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. But just I had a friend who was going to school for pharmacy school, and she told me, just come on, let's do this together. And then just growing up, I knew I wanted to do something in the medical industry or medical field. I just didn't know what. I knew I did not like nursing. I just the sight of blood, just that scared me, and I just did not like nursing. But I also had my dad was a veterinary doctor, and I liked that. But I'm not a huge fan of animals, so I knew I did not want to pursue it in that perspective. But I didn't know exactly what. But when I moved here, that's when she told me about it, and I researched about it a little more, and then actually got a job as a pharmacy technician, just to kind of get the feel of the field. And I liked it when I started working there. I liked it. So that's how I got into pharmacy.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about that. So that's fascinating. So you moved when you were about 18 to the States. Was it with your family or by yourself?
No, this was a complete solo move. It was just me. My oldest brother at the time was here in the United States. So I kind of followed him, but my parents were still back home. But so it was just me and my brother.
Yeah, that's
So very, very different culture shock. And I mean, the whole, just a very, like, it's like a baby. Now you have to start from the beginning to learn everything from the language, even though it was English, the English that in the United States is spoken is different from what I was used to. So from the language, the culture, everything, even the driving, we drive on the opposite side of the road. So it was just a completely new beginning.
yeah, I can relate. But I moved here with my family when I was 9. So
Uh-huh.
definitely it's different when you have family with you. And then we also had some relatives here that were able to help us out. But if you're just on your own, it could be quite scary and
Yeah,
definitely about the culture shock. So you knew English from your schooling growing up.
correct.
Good.
Yes.
And so where did you move? And then, how did you settle in and how were you able to transition from the technician position into a full-fledged pharmacist?
Okay. So when I moved here, I moved to Alabama. That's where my brother was. So I moved there as well and did my schooling in Alabama, both my undergrad and the pharmacy degree. I did all that in Alabama. And so just having him there helped me to settle in. So that helped me to get adapted to how life in the US is. So that helped me. Just I think having him there was definitely a big plus. I think if I was by myself, that would have been completely different than how it turned out to be. So went to school there, went to school, did the pharmacy, did the undergrad in biology, and then while I was still working, and especially as a foreign student, you had to go to school full time. You had to work because again, it was just me and my brother. He was in school himself, so he couldn't support me. So I had to work to support myself, pay for tuition, and it was full time. So very difficult, but I just had to do it because I moved here to pursue the education. So I worked as a technician, and then I also had a little other side jobs that I was doing just to be able to support myself. And then, so I did that. Then I went into pharmacy school, and also I continued working though. I continued working as a moved promoted from technician to intern, and then also now from intern to a graduate intern, and then now as a pharmacist. So it's
Wow.
pretty.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the process of applying for a student visa, I assume, and then coming here, but basically all of that costs money. So all of that is out of your own pocket. I don't know if you qualify for scholarships or not. And then you have to basically, like you said, pay for your own tuition. Did you need to take any loans or anything like that?
For the pharmacy school, yes. For that one, I had to. It was a lot, and I went to a private university, so the cost was a little more, and so I had to take loans for that. But so getting a student visa back home. So when I applied, back then when I came, you had to move to the US. You couldn't just move to the US and say you were coming to pursue a degree in business. So just something along those lines. It had to be something that there's a real big need for it. So I came as a computer science major, but I have no interest in computers and technology. That's not my forte. Um, so when I moved here, I did actually I did the classes for computer science for the associate, but I had a semester away left to graduate with the associate's degree, and I realized I could not do this because we started doing like the programming classes, and that's when I realized this is definitely not for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so but so coming here, yeah, got the visa, applied to got here, and then I'll start applying to school. Now as a foreign student, you do get some scholarships, not a lot. You do get some scholarships, and then also you could also get the loans as an immigrant student. And so that's what I did to be able to pursue the education.
Yeah, but that's quite a risk, right? You're, going to an unfamiliar land. You barely have any family to support you or anybody that you know, and you are pursuing this huge, career with a huge degree that requires some loans. But
Mhm.
that's taking, a lot of courage to just go for it and, just believe in yourself.
It does. It does. Yes.
So what do you remember, like when you think about back on those times? I'm sure there were some hardships involved. So, how did you have that courage and the strength to just continue on?
I think the biggest thing that used to push me was the fact that I did not want to just move back home, like go back home because I couldn't make it. So I had to find the strength in me to really make it. And then as you went, is in the community, then you get to know other people who are in the same situations where they're also going to school. They have to work to be able to afford the tuition. So we were all just set like a support group for each other. So we encourage each other and just kept fighting.
That's beautiful because even if you don't have blood relatives around, finding people in similar situations can be super helpful as a support group.
Oh yes, yes, it did for me.
That's wonderful. So, how did you find that pharmacy tech job in the beginning? Was it through a chain pharmacy? Was it an independent setting? And then, how did you transition? Like you were saying, you were moving to be an intern and then the pharmacist. Did you stay with the same setting, or did you change after you graduated?
I actually stayed with the same setting. I didn't change it. And this was through, so again, I found the job through when my friend told me about it. And she told me, yeah, there's actually a store that's looking for technicians. Why don't you go apply? And so I did, I applied, I went for the interview, and I got it. And then so that's where again I had to really, because especially working in a retail setting as an immigrant, and for me especially, the culture difference was where, like, the language, like in the US, people talk really, really fast. Where I'm from, we just we're slow paced, so you kind of you have the time to actually understand what the person is saying. But this was just a marathon. Like I had to really really closely listen in and just try to understand what they may be asking. So, but I had very good my pharmacists, the mentors, they were very good, and they helped me a lot. So I was able to shift and understand and actually finally now really integrate and get to know, to understand the pharmacy and get to work with the patients. And that's how I was able to transition from being a technician and now to an intern, and then all the way to a pharmacist.
Awesome. So what did you do? So you said after you graduated, you stayed with the company.
Mhm.
And so what made you become a diabetes educator, and how did that passion come about? And then did you have any other settings that you worked in, maybe when you were an intern or anything like that? Tell us a little bit more about your career.
Yes, I did. So in pharmacy school, so during our final year, we had the different rotations that we went to. And so I did go to a couple specialties, which were one was a compounding specialty, and I love that one. I love the compounding specialty pharmacy. And then we had one that had to do with home care health. And then I did internship in the hospital. And then also a different retail. I did an internship with a different retail, and also with the management, pharmacy management. I did a retail, an internship with that. But out of all that, I realized I loved talking with patients, and I loved, especially when we would do the internship, and the pharmacist would tell us, okay, you're the intern, so go, counsel the patient, talk to them. So I love that part where I would talk to them, and when you're telling them something and like you see their eyes pop, like they actually like they get it. So I like that. And during the pharmacy school, I love the subject of diabetes. When we had pharmacotherapy and we did diabetes, I loved it. And that's how I got that interest of wanting to know how I can use that education as a pharmacist and actually teach the patients, because I love that part of teaching them. And that's what I've done, where I now teach the patients, things that they may not necessarily get the information when they go maybe to either pick up their medications or at the doctor's office. They may not have that one-on-one, someone sitting down with them and explaining to them about diabetes, about the condition, and what to do. So I just love that. And that's why I specialize, and I teach the patients to where they can understand how they can, and I empower them so they can be the champions for their health. That way they can know what to do, what not to do.
Well, yeah, I could totally see the passion as you're speaking about it. That's amazing. So, is it because diabetes you saw was pretty prevalent? And is that part of the reason that you're passionate about it? And then, do you have any personal or family story about why you're interested in medicine in general? Besides, I know you mentioned your dad is a veterinarian.
Mhm. Yes. So I have a personal experience where my mom is diabetic, and so I've seen the challenge, I've seen the struggles. So I understand, when patients may just get home and now they don't know what to do. So I understand completely how they feel. I understand the emotional aspect of it.
Mhm.
And that's why I just got involved and just wanted to know more and how I can help them. And so that's how it's pushed me to know how to help them and what to do with them.
Yeah, definitely. So I know we get a lot of training in pharmacy school, like
Mhm.
you were mentioning pharmacotherapy and non-pharmacological therapy and approaches. So what do you focus on in your counseling? And did you get any additional trainings in diabetes?
Yes. So what I focus on mainly is the lifestyle changes. That's why I feel, because like I would tell my patients, diabetes, it has to do with lifestyle and genes. Now we can change the genes, but we can definitely do a lot with the lifestyle changes. So that's what I really focus on. So the diet, we talk a lot about the food selection, the choices, and then the exercise part. because the two go hand in hand. So that's why I really focus on and tell them, diabetes, it can be managed, but we have to really change the lifestyle. We have to change the exercises and the food. And I'm pursuing my certification in diabetes education. And I'm also and also just I also love because from where I'm from in Kenya, I can see a lot of people who are struggling with the diabetes. And so that's why I want to just make sure that, like create awareness that diabetes it's preventable. Just make them aware what they can do to be able to reverse or manage the diabetes.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a huge role, like you were saying, with epigenetics. So just because we have a certain predisposition or gene doesn't mean that we can't manage turning it on or off. That is all under our power and our control. So we can make different choices, which will change the outcome of our genetics.
Yes, definitely.
So what do you see as like the biggest challenges or the biggest factors that lead to people having diabetes?
Most of them is the lack of knowledge. I think it's the lack of knowledge of what kinds of food to eat or even the portions. So the lack of knowledge, I think that's the biggest challenge. And so I feel like if as healthcare providers, is if we just take the time to let the patients know. I mean, I know pharmacists, we deal with the medications, but we also have that aspect where we can do more than just the medication. So education, I feel it's a really big role that we can do. And so once we teach people and empower them with the knowledge, I know they can do it. They just need that encouragement and empowerment.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, the big piece is education, but also the support and guidance, just
Yes.
like an accountability partner or somebody that is supporting their choices and helping them rather than, you know, maybe not understanding them, or even like some people when they see other people are making choices, different choices than them, it might feel uncomfortable. So
Correct.
like we were saying before, with the support group in your school, it's also important to have a support group at home for the person who is going to change their diet or lifestyle. They really need that support system, that everybody around them is either doing it with them or at least encouraging and supporting them.
And that's one thing I love working with families, because I know if they can all support each other and encourage each other, like you said, as accountability partners. So I love working with families.
So how do you incorporate this education piece into your counseling? Are you still in a retail setting doing these services, or is this something private?
Yes, so I'm still in my retail setting, but the education part, I'm doing that as a private consultation.
Awesome. So how do you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how do you run your business? How do your consultations look? Is it in a group setting or one-on-one?
Right now, it is one-on-one, but hopefully in future, I might change it to a group setting just to give more support. So right now, it's just one-on-one. So we would do we do the education. We do at least a 3 month. We did a 3 month session together, because again, we as human beings, it takes time for us to actually change and adapt to new routines or way of doing things. So we do a 3 month session.
Awesome. And how often do they see you in these 3 months?
We do get to talk at least once a week.
That's
Yes.
really good. That's a lot of time. So what do you see people as they go through your program for 3 months? What do you see them going through? What are the first steps that you take them through? And then what are the outcomes?
Okay. So the first step we try to do in the beginning, especially, is the food, and just go slowly incorporating the different changes. That way we can, by the end of the 3 months, they've actually they do know what what can they do and what can they not do. And then besides the food, we also do the lifestyle, the exercises, because that way they can also know. Because sometimes, when people hear exercise, to them it's like, oh, just go like a marathon or do like very intense. I feel that's how people associate exercise with very intense working out. And it's not. It's just we have to start somewhere. So I do encourage at least start by just walking. Even if you can't do like, maybe like 30 minutes, start with maybe 15. And as you go, then your body will also get used to it. And then we can go adding more and giving longer duration for the exercise.
Yeah, I think about like personal trainers when I hear exercise. So,
Yes.
is that what you're coaching them on? But absolutely, I think it's all about moving your body. So maybe even just changing the word to movement is
Right.
closer to it, because your body is designed to move. Your body is not designed to sit at a desk and stare at one spot that's very close to you all day long. So if we don't utilize this movement ability, our skeletal muscle and all of our systems, our other systems depend on it. Like our lymph system needs our body to move to get the lymph back up, and even our circulation. So
Yes.
if we don't do that, no pill can help us.
No, no.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
it was like very almost naive for us to think that we can solve every problem with a pill or a surgery.
Yep.
Because there's some basic fundamental things that the human body is just designed to do. And we
Right.
need the fresh air and the sun and outside air,
Yes.
like,
Yes. And fresh
moving.
air would do wonders. I mean, even myself, I just go outside at least just to get that fresh air, and I just you can feel the difference.
Yeah, like working in a pharmacy and like being very far away from the outside world is not fun. Or even, we don't really have windows in our pharmacy, right?
Right.
The windows are on the other side and we're in the whole back
Complete.
room. Or like working in an office, sometimes you're not next to a window most of the time, actually. So, it's very important to be in connection, not only with other people, but also the elements around us.
Yes, yes. And especially right now with COVID, where a lot of people are working from home,
Yeah.
it is definitely recommended to get out.
Yeah, exactly. And being outside, you're not confined to a space where
Right.
there's could be bacteria and viruses brewing. So definitely recommended to air out your space and to air yourself out.
Oh, yes, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us the top like 3 tips that you share with your clients and how they should be eating? What kind of foods should they be eating, and then what should they not be eating?
Okay. So I do encourage them to, and I keep saying it's just to reverse the plating. And by that I mean, when I was growing up, we used to, when it's time for plating of putting our food on our plate, like we would start with big portions of the carbohydrates, and then we'll go to vegetables and then to some kind of meat. And so what I tell them is to reverse the plating, is just change how you plate. So start with the vegetables. Start with the vegetables and then do the meats and then go do the carbohydrates. Because by the time you get to the carbohydrates, you're only going to put just a little bit, just maybe a quarter. But if you start with that, that's what you're going to put. Half of your plate is going to be carbohydrate, which is that's what we did when we were growing up. So we do things like where we just reverse the plating, where you change, start with the vegetables, go to the meats, and then do the carbohydrates. And then also increase like the number of fruits and vegetables a day, the raw fruits and vegetables. And then also increasing the amount of like whole grains, just do whole grains instead of the ultra processed foods. Because of course that's where our gut is not made to process those ultra processed foods. So they end up not being beneficial to us. They end up just being more harmful than they should be helping us. So those are some of the things I encourage my patients to just change the way you think about, putting food on your plate. And
Yep.
then was staying hydrated, avoiding high fat foods and sugars.
Yeah, that's excellent advice.
Yeah, so it's more of a mindset thing. And so and I know once they get it, they actually now do know, yeah, I can do this because I just need to change how I'm doing things.
Yeah, but I agree about it being a mindset thing because like we were saying before, if you feel like you don't fit in with the rest of how your family or your friends are eating, and you know
Yes.
you have this disease state that you now have to manage, so you
Mhm.
can't look at what they're eating. You have to decide for yourself, you know, what's good for your body, but it's difficult to do that because
Very.
you're surrounded by people that are eating the way you used to eat. It's
Mm.
easy to kind of fall back into that same pattern.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Yeah, mindset. Yeah, it takes a lot. I just remembered like I wanted to like when I moved here, like I said, this was a completely different culture for me. And so that just made me feel like I wanted just to dim my light where I just, I didn't even want to I felt I couldn't speak up. I was afraid to even speak up and share whatever I had to share. And I know what I had to share, of course, is important. But I felt sort of rejected, and just afraid to speak up. And so I really had to change my mindset by just like creating my boundaries and speaking up so that way I can advocate for myself. And that's why I encourage my patients, we have to change the mindset, because that way you can be able to advocate like for yourself. Like you said, if you have family who are not totally supporting you, you
Yeah.
have to decide, so which way do I go?
Yeah, you have to become your own biggest supporter. You know, you have to find the strength
Mhm.
within yourself so that you can, like you said, establish the boundaries of what you're going to accept into your field that you're
Uh-huh.
not going to accept. So, you know, just like being really tough and knowing that you're doing the right thing for you, and
Mhm.
whatever somebody else thinks doesn't matter because you're doing it for your own benefit.
Correct, correct. So yeah, so I aim just so they can understand that, like you're the only one who can, take charge of that.
Yeah, because a lot of time that is why we fail at things and we feel defeated when we feel like we don't have a choice, you know, and this is just, you know, our genetics, like we were talking before, and you know, it's a curse that this happened to us and we're powerless to change it. But if you think about how many things you do have power over and all those things and focus on what you can control, that becomes,
Correct.
you know, a lot easier to live like that and a lot more empowering so that you can actually stick to those choices and not have the doubts, you know, or have the self-sabotage even to like regress back into your old ways.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's so key in many different areas of
Oh
life.
yeah. Oh yeah, I think you can apply everywhere,
Yeah.
every aspect of life.
Yeah, business or even working for someone else or
Mhm.
your
Yes.
life purpose or family, like it applies in any case, relationships.
Does, yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I really like the idea of focusing on vegetables and focusing, you know, on what they can have instead
Mhm.
of limiting the, oh, okay, don't have this and this and this, but actually this is what you should be having. You should be putting so much veggies on your plate that
Right.
you're feeling full from the veggies and
Yes.
you don't want to eat more. And do you find any challenges like with the, for example, cost of vegetables in relationships to some processed foods or access to the vegetables?
Mhm.
And then also how people maybe are going back to their old beliefs or saying that they don't like to eat vegetables or it doesn't taste good for them. How do you deal with those challenges?
Yeah, so I do, yeah, occasionally, you have someone's that's they're saying that it's cheaper to do the processed foods. So it's cheaper right now, but in the long run, it's gonna be more expensive because then it's causing more harm to you than it should. And so I tell them, and a lot of people do like that convenience of the package, the already prepackaged and processed foods. But I do let them know, just let them know, about just again to teach them about the vegetables. Yeah, it's you just want to make sure you're incorporating them. And of course, as you keep doing that, your body will eventually get used to it because you've detoxed the processed food. So now your body is wants these fruits and vegetables. And the cost wise, I know like we have I know like here we have like an open air market, so I encourage people to go there. I do go get the vegetables and fruits from there myself, and just to buy just to keep, again, just to keep, because once you do something so much, it becomes a routine. And I encourage them to, I know most people, they have an issue with vegetables, they don't like them, but it's just find different ways maybe to cook it. Just experiment with different ways to cook it, and find a way that actually works for you or that you enjoy eating. And but just keep, incorporating different ones, and see which ones work best for you.
Yeah, it could be a fun, exciting process to, again, have those choices and make it in your own creative way, play around in your kitchen with recipes. It's not something like you have to dredge and that you have to be scared because it's not going to taste good, but it's giving you the chance and opportunity to come up with different recipes and again, find something that works for you and that you do like.
Yes, I do that a lot myself. I just find different recipes and just play with them and just see which way I like best.
Yeah, I also find that diabetes can be classified as an autoimmune disease. So how do you counsel about that component? For example, like we were mentioning grains. Some people maybe won't even tolerate grains, or sometimes I recommend elimination diets. Have you found that helpful?
I haven't dealt with, maybe I haven't come across anyone who's can tolerate like those kind of diets, but I just let them know, I just teach them just to do more whole grains versus the processed ones. Because again, as an autoimmune disease, it's the processed foods are gonna just progress it more than the unprocessed ones.
Yeah, and you also mentioned detoxification. So these processed foods that we're eating, they are kind of empty nutritionally. So they're not nutritionally dense. They're the opposite. They actually draw away our nutrients for us to be able to process them some way and eliminate them. So they actually deplete, our vitamin and mineral pathways and our liver enzymes, so that we need to eat even more cofactors from our foods, which is really from fruit and vegetables.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's a good way to think about it, that you actually need, for every like processed meal you have, you need to have like 10 times more vegetables to process that meal.
Yes, that's a great idea.
So do you use any supplements or any MTM in your counseling?
No supplements. Because I know most of them, the cost might be an issue for them. So no supplements. MTM, just like small scale, just to make sure the medications they're taking are actually for them, they're right for them. But I try not to do so much of the medicine part. I want to focus on the other part of the education of the lifestyle changes. But as a pharmacist, because of my pharmacist background, I will look at the medications, but I don't mess with that too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. But have you found that as a side effect of the work that you do together, are there benefits such as weight loss or reduction in medication?
Yes, that happens. Yeah. So as we work on the food and exercise part, we do get to see where some of the medications they're discontinued, and some of the patients they lose the weight because they've changed how they're eating. and also the stress, and so with that, they're not spending as much money on the medications, that now they can redirect their money on the healthy foods.
Yeah, and also some medications, or even most of them for diabetes, may be covered by people's insurance plans, especially those that are available as generics. But still, it does come with a burden again of having to tax our liver and our kidneys to process and eliminate them. And besides the active ingredient, there could be fillers or binders or colorants.
Yes.
And, you know, they could have some side effects that are not pleasant. So I think it's always best to be able to function without the medication.
Yes, yes. That's always my goal. Yes, to get them to where they don't have to depend on the medications.
Yeah, that's excellent. So how do people find you and even request to work with you?
So I am on the two main platforms I'm on. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook under Dr. Phyllis Kamau.
And do you find that most of them are referrals, like people that you've worked with before, or how do you market your business?
So most of them will find me because I do a lot of information that I share on the two platforms. So that's how so once they read and they see what I'm doing and what I'm talking about, and that's how they find me. So they would message me from there.
Awesome. So you educate on your social media platforms, people ask you questions, and then eventually may become a client. Yes. And is it mostly virtual, and do you accept people all over the world, or is it region specific?
It's all over, so it's virtual.
Virtual, awesome. That's excellent. I'm so glad they have you.
Thank you. I think COVID has taught us, it has come with its bad, but it's also taught us some good things that, we can do things virtually.
That's true. Yeah, this is so much more commonplace. And even family now talks virtually if they're quarantining or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your favorite part about this business? And then what is your future or your mission of your company?
So my favorite is when I get to see the patients succeed. That's where I feel my joy comes from, seeing them succeed, because I don't want them to be struggling. And diabetes, it's a challenging disease. So a lot of patients do struggle. So I like when I see them succeed, and that gives me so much joy. So the future, I'm just, again, creating the big awareness, because trying to get these patients to where they don't come to me because now they're diabetic, but trying to get to them before they're even diabetic. So I have, I'm working on creating an awareness initiative for the patients, for people, especially like school age kids. I think we can start with them so they have a strong and good foundation, and when it comes to food and exercising or body movements. So so creating a movement to just raise that awareness.
That's so important, because kids, they pick up more from what is happening actually around them than what we tell them to do.
Right.
So if we lead by example and plate, like you said, for ourselves with vegetables, the kids are always looking up at us. But doing it at home is not enough. We really need there to be, in schools, this kind of education and the availability of good foods to be there in our school systems. And for this needs to be almost like on a political level, because the food guidelines are not changed, and unless the schools are providing these healthier options and alternatives, how can we expect anything different than what we see?
We've seen.
So it's like we need to address the problem, the big overarching problem of the lack of education and the lack of resources, and maybe even the lack of funds. I mean, I don't know why schools are providing such
Yeah,
nutritionally empty
healthy.
food.
Right.
So it must be something to do with the funds, but probably
Yeah.
also about lack of education, where they kind of stayed behind in like the 1950s and give food that is like preserved and packaged and not good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and like you said it so well, because I have three young kids, and so I know I may just keep telling them, okay, you need to eat your fruits, but even they, of course, they're looking at me. So if they don't see me eating, then they're not going to eat it.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to be the role models, and they have to also have their choices in their schools or wherever they go, daycares and throughout school, but especially like you said, the younger they are, the better to introduce
Right.
them to this and to
Yeah.
change their palate. Like what we're saying about taste, we
Yes.
really usually end up enjoying the taste that we are used to, and then we start to crave them because our microbiome changes to associate with that food. And what is, you can either grow a healthy microbiome or an unhealthy one. So an
Right.
unhealthy, unbalanced one will crave usually stuff that's not that nutritious.
Right. Not nutritious at all.
And carbohydrates, but what we want is lots of nutrient rich greens and other vegetables. And
Right. Yes.
so if you keep that healthy variety of nutrients available and you consume them, you actually will find that you don't crave the other stuff anymore.
Very true. Yes, yes. So we definitely have a lot of what to do with the schools.
Yeah, the schools I think are key, but also prenatal nutrition for young moms,
Young moms.
or new moms. They don't have to be young, I guess. But like this is actually when the person realizes usually that they're responsible not only for themselves, but another life that they're carrying around them. So of course, even if they didn't realize before about nutrition or about health or didn't really pay attention to it, this is the pivotal time when people actually start to really wonder and educate themselves and ask questions and read books
Yes.
to make sure that they're doing the best thing for their baby. So this cycle continues, but the younger that we start it, whether it's prenatal or little kids, I think that is definitely a good place to target so that the next generation could avoid or prevent
Yes.
such a mass scale of problems.
Yes. Yes. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love your mission and your passion for this work. I would love to go into a rapid round fire question with you.
Sure.
All right. So what is the number one advice you can give to people to improve their quality of life right now?
Number one advice, get out, get some fresh air, and definitely the change, look at what you're eating. Yeah, change your diet, change your food. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables.
I know the way we're saying it, it's like so simple. It
It
sounds so
is.
simple, but it's not easy to implement.
It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah. So I think it's like just wrapping your head around the fact that it's not that complex. We don't have to know all the science behind it, but just doing this simple action of eating mostly vegetables and some fruit and then a little bit of other sources of, animal or plant protein is really
Right.
what your body needs.
Yeah, and they wouldn't know until they start. So at least start.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Find out.
it's almost like so simple that they don't believe it works. but just try it and then see.
Try it. Try it. That's true. Try it.
All right, my second question for you is what's your favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby. Let's see. I love cooking. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you have 3 young kids to cook for. Do they all have a similar taste or do you have to cook different for each person?
No, they have different tastes, but I don't cater to like their different tastes. I just make one dish and that's what everybody's gonna eat. The only thing I do is that I make a dish for, if one kid likes this dish, so I may make that dish that day, but the following day I'll make a different one. But I don't do like different meals for everybody. No, just
Good.
one meal. I want them to get used to, used to eating, and especially because I do a lot of fruits and vegetables. So I want them to get used to that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, there's definitely phases I've noticed with my child where first he likes a particular vegetable, then he doesn't like it. Or he likes something, and then the next day, or like maybe
Yes,
in a month or two, he switches to something else.
but I still keep offering, even when they do
Yeah,
that.
still keep offering the good stuff. What can you do?
Because yeah, we know better. So yeah.
Right. And I also want to know, what is your favorite dish to make?
My favorite dish would have to be, this is something that we make from back home. It's a dish that we make with let's see, we do potatoes in it, we do beans, we do carrots, we do cabbage. We do all of it in that one dish, and then some corn. We do it in that one dish.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That's similar, I think, to a dish that we make too.
Uh-huh.
So it's cool how other, heritages and backgrounds, they have similar traditional meals.
Mhm. Yes.
All right. And how, I know you mentioned that you're passionate also about educating people from your home country in Kenya about diabetes because you saw prevalence of it. So are you doing any work with that?
Yes, with there, I'm partnering with a nonprofit and just doing the awareness campaigns.
Wow, that's excellent work. So
Yeah,
good luck with that. So
thank you.
I'd love for you to tell the listeners again where they can get in touch with you. What are these two platforms that you mostly hang out in, and any other projects that you're working on?
Okay. So I'm on both Facebook and platform, and Dr. Phyllis Kamau. You find me on both of them under that one. Eventually, I may have other platforms, but right now, those are the main ones. So my big project is just creating awareness. Diabetes, it's not a death sentence, but we can manage it, and there's lots to do with diabetes. So that's my biggest project mission, just get people to know that we can do this.
Yeah, there is definitely lots to do. You're right about that. The work is cut out, and we can do it if we do it together.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and your mission and your projects with us. I wish you the best of luck. Definitely keep us posted on the nonprofit stuff too. I think it's so wonderful to give back, and I hope to see you again in the near future.
Absolutely, this was awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right, my pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you, you as well.
Bye.
Bye bye.